Christian Strong. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing awesome. I'm happy to be here. I'm thankful to be on your podcast, and I stay tuned, throughout the year with all that you've been doing. So I really enjoy what you're doing for football.
Nice. Yeah, very good. And I've been doing the same for you, right? Let's start with the first question, right? Is My first question to all my guests is, where did we meet for the first time?
Where did we meet? We met in 2019, and it would have been in Dusseldorf for the Panther. You had signed me. I remember still to this day when I had signed. I was with my sister and my dad at a local sushi restaurant, and where I was like, "Oh, the Dusseldorf Panther reached out to me. They're GFL one, top league in Europe. I want to play for them." Coach Lighton hit me up, and I'm going to commit. And yeah, from there,
There you go.
that's how it started.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I remember a few things too. About the this Canadian guy who played in
Mhm.
Australia, and I thought, hey man, this is something right here. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hmm. Yep. The Australian connection. That was good though, honestly. That was a
yeah,
good 2018 year in Brisbane.
yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, it's funny. 2019 already seems so long ago, Christian.
I know it's crazy. It's crazy
Huh?
that was just about 4 years ago. Wow,
Yeah, yeah. It's
crazy.
it's goes fast.
It
They
does.
say the older you get, the faster time goes. So I'm just throwing it out there for you. All right.
I'm hoping it slows down a bit. Hoping
Yeah.
it slows down a bit.
We met for the first time 2019 in Dusseldorf.
Hmm.
Obviously in the recruiting process, we talked. We talked about your time playing in Australia, and what that was like for you. And then you come to Dusseldorf. Then you have a couple years in Cologne.
Hmm.
It's You play for that team here behind me there, right? See that?
Yep, across
That's
the
that.
path.
And then this year the Innsbruck Raiders in the Elf
Hmm.
League. So
Hmm.
there's a couple of big time names in your playing history in overseas, right? So um, can you just talk a little bit about your different experiences, as in different teams, different leagues, what that was like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a 5 year overseas journey playing, international pro football, which I'm thankful for. They were all different though. In 2018 in Brisbane, I was fresh out of college, didn't get picked up in the NFL, didn't get picked up in the CFL. And then from there, it was okay, do I want to play arena? We had an offer for DC Valor, but just didn't commit. Didn't really want to go the arena route. Decided to, make a Euro profiles. And the first offer that came up was Coach Booker with the Brisbane Rhinos, and just jumped ship right to that. And what many people might not know is that Jarvis and I were both out there together, but we weren't paid to play in Brisbane. We had to get a job. So I got to experience what it's like as a homegrown, in a sense, for even a lot of Europeans, where you have to work and play football. And we worked our normal job. We paid rent for our place too that we lived in. We paid for our phone bill. We paid for our gas, normal things that are a luxury when you're an import in Europe. So I got to experience that, the hardships of that, and play football. We went to the finals,
Mhm.
but we lost in the finals. And then from there, went to 2019 in Dusseldorf, which was a nice year as well. But as you know, we just couldn't compete with all the other top-notch GFL one teams. And it's interesting because getting released for a team as well there, where we wouldn't have a winning record, was understandable, and whatnot. And I was kind of thinking after that season, the way how things went, like, oh, I don't know if I want to play overseas again. I don't know if I want to play in Europe again. It kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. But then 2020 came, which was the COVID year. I was originally signed to Hildesheim, and then everything from Hildesheim went to the Niedersachsen German Knights, which was the first team or second team that was going to be in the ELF. That
Yeah.
folded, and then from there, my trust issues just went. I don't know if the ELF's going to be something big. I just came from Dusseldorf, where things also were a bit shaky, and then there in 2020 with the Niedersachsen folding. So I was like, you know what, I don't know what I'm going to do. But then Cologne reached out, and was in Cologne for 2 years. Was Had an awesome time. Coach Odenthal is a great coach, good players coach, had a lot of talent, throughout the 2021 2022 year. And then from there, um, they dissolved as a whole program in itself
Yeah.
last year, unfortunately. So then ELF came about again. I was trying with Jarvis as well doing XFL, just couldn't get picked up. And then yeah, went with the T-Roll Raiders of the ELF, and I also have now experienced getting released on a winning team. Being 6-2 and a top five quarterback, and still getting released. So, I've like you said, I've had different experiences with all different emotions, and but it still has been an awesome journey that I wouldn't trade in for anything. So.
Yeah, sure. Like I always say, when I'm in the position of recruiting athletes for football, right? It's a lifestyle. It's not a career in Europe, right? And if
For
you're
sure.
straight out of college and you play a few years or even longer, some guys stay longer, and
Hmm.
you can have a great time, like and but yeah, the ups and downs, right? So I always say this in for me as a coach, there's two things that is really that's the hardest about football is that um, the ups and downs, the highs and the lows, there's so much space in between that's hard. The great wins and the bad losses, that's one. And then,
Hmm.
like I said, really, you talk about getting released, is that at some point, coaches either in training camp in pro football or in season, as you have experience as well, is that sometimes as a coach you have to let guys go, and that is really a bad feeling. Because I mean, you can only speak for myself, but I've talked to enough coaches about that, and I feel the same because you bring players in because you believe in them, right? And then for
Hmm.
whatever reason that comes up, if it doesn't work, at least in the coach's mind or the organization's mind, then yeah, then sometimes they you feel you have to make a move, right? So
Hmm.
um that regard, obviously, you got released by the Raiders. Incidentally, that was right just before our first appointment for to record a podcast. It was actually scheduled. So that was a bit tough. Um, so can you talk about how that went, or how that especially how it feels that when you sit there, right? Because like I think you've been online and explained what actually happened, and that's it. Just really that's saying how are you however you want to cut it, but just hey, you got to go. You're just
Hmm.
going, right? But how do you experience that as a player to go through that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I already touched base on basically what happened, but the feelings that, you feel as an import, you travel thousands of miles away from life back at home, from family, from your girlfriend, from getting a job even, and you kind of prolong and put on pause your career aspirations also for income back at home. And then
Hmm.
to get released is like a feeling of like, dang, was it all worth it? Was it the right decision? And you start to think of what you maybe could have done differently and whatnot. It's disheartening for sure at first, um, but as time went on, I could understand their side, I could understand my side, and at the end of the day, it is a business. Can't really touch more on that, and but feeling wise, it is something that is also a learning experience at the end of the day. I don't like to see it as a loss. I don't really see much things as losses. I see it more as lessons, lessons to just grow on. And, at the end of the day, moving forward with life at any point in time, even in a normal job, a normal 9 to 5 job, wherever you might be working, these things can happen, all the time when you might be thinking that you're performing at a decent, ability and doing the right things, um, there's always something that could happen. And
Hmm.
it's like a saying, like, sometimes you have to also be ready for a rainy day. And that's what happened. And um, yeah, but moving forward, I have no regrets really, and I still have a positive attitude with everything going on in my life. And I know that God has planned for me regardless of whatever it is. So,
Yeah, look, as I know you a little bit, just a positive guy. Find the positives and move on, right? Like,
hmm
as hard as that sometimes might be, because these things do weigh on your mind, and but ultimately that's the end result after a hard time too, right? You're like, all right,
hmm
we're moving on, right? So,
hmm
so so you have these conversations, and how does that work? Then you got to move out. You got to get out of your apartment, get a flight. Is there an exit physical, or what? Can you explain that process? How that went in Innsbruck?
yeah. So it was more so, we played the game on Saturday, we got the win, and then on Sunday, I got a call in from the GM, got released, and then um, the Monday came, and it was pretty much at. Well, I was on going on vacation anyways from that Monday for the week, and then when I came back from vacation with my girlfriend, it was like the following day where I dropped in my keys, got my last payment, um, any of their transportation card or a gym card or whatever it might have been. That was the Raiders, stuff, whether or even if it
Mhm.
was equipment that you would use, you give all that back and you clean up your flat, and then yeah, you have your bags packed and you're out, pretty much whenever the timeline is that they have for you the next day, whatever, and they book your flight back home.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you hear from teammates, fellow import players, local players at all when it happened? How did that sort of news go about?
Like teammates from the Raiders, like reaching out to me after it happened,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, they all messaged me and said wish you all the best. Sorry it couldn't work out and whatnot. Import players that are there as well still. Um, there was confusion as to why it happened with other players too, and same way I might have been confused for that they really decided to go about that, but
Mm,
um, just a normal basic all the best type text that,
yeah.
that that you would receive. I still had respect from a lot of the players, and I was also very respectful with them throughout the whole year. So, I guess I expected to get some messages, which I did, so which was good.
Mm, mm. Yeah. So, and then your guy Jarvis, he says, "Well, if you cut my boy, I'm packing my bag too." That's different too. I thought, like, obviously, we have the history in playing college and here in Australia, and like that kind of stuff.
hmm
We tried to get him to Dusseldorf as well, right? Remember? And
hmm
unfortunately, that didn't go. But um, yeah, that to have your mate basically say, "Look, well, and I can't do this without him." That's how did that sort of, was that something that you expected would happen, or how's that how did it
Well,
go?
Jarvis is just he's a man of his word. He's always been that way. I've known him since 2013, so for 10 plus years now, and even when he was in, Langenfeld, he decided to go to Langenfeld for his second year. He had ELF offers, he had GFL1 offers. I tried to even get him to Cologne in the year before he actually came last year. And he turned me down. He's a man of his word, and if he tells you something, he's gonna go with it. His dad's a Marine, he's a Marine baby, so he's been engraved into him. So, um, yeah, he felt a type of way from the whole thing as well, and it's bigger than football. It's a loyalty thing, but also with Jarvis is that I had told him that he didn't have to leave. It wasn't a thing that was always, yeah, you got to leave too. It was never
Mm,
like that. As of his brother and close best friend, I was like, bro, this is my story. Like, they still want you. You don't have to leave, man. Like, you can stay here. And he decided that, like they went against the initial agreement, that he had to part ways as well. So that was
yeah.
his decision, and I respected it as well at the end of the day. And
Mm,
yeah, Jarvis is not a man that he's a man of integrity. So he will live by his decisions for sure.
mm, mm. And any idea? It's hard to put yourself in those shoes, I guess. But did you think that the Raiders organization had a inkling or had an idea about that would happen if they cut you?
I think they had the idea that it could happen, but I think they were pulling his bluff. I don't think that they really thought he could actually fall through with it. I think that they would say, we'll actually test that card and see if he actually will. And when he actually did, I think it was a shock and it was a surprise. And but they also didn't truly. He said in the interview they didn't really truly fight for him to really stay. But so who knows? Maybe they had the notion that maybe he was going to leave and they were ready for it to bring in a new guy. But off my gut instincts, I don't think they truly really thought that he would have.
Mm, yeah. All right. So moving on, right? So you
Yep.
come home. It's always good to come home after you've been away for
Oh
a while, right? We got the missus, the
yeah.
family's there. You have
Yep.
a dog you can you can play with again, right?
Yep. Yep.
So now time has passed, and did that change how you think about the situation or how it feels for you? Like, did that make a difference at all?
Yeah, I mean, you get time to reflect, as the weeks progress and just being at home and having the support system like physically with you, because as an import, you don't have people there around physically. You don't have your mom or your dad or your siblings or your girlfriend to be there beside you, to talk things out or to just open up and vent about whatever's going on. And with the time difference as well, it's tough. The import lifestyle is not something that's as easy as people might think. You really have to go through and live it, firsthand to really know all the intricate details that go on with it. But being back home with just a breath of fresh air, you know, yeah, you can relax for a bit, but then also the relaxing side has now progressed and passed to where it's okay, life is setting back in, reality's setting back in,
Yeah.
my girlfriend and we have plans to, move out and do this and that, and we want to get things started there, and it's also like, it's time to also get a big boy job now and, really, maybe turn that page on football. I live in a city where things are not getting cheaper. Things are very
Mhm.
expensive in Toronto. I'm not getting any younger. I'm getting older, and it's either keep playing overseas football, doing long distance relationship, and making not we know we don't make a living out there. You make enough to survive and bring back some cash, but you don't make a true living out there.
Mhm.
So those are decisions that I have to really think hard about. Moving forward. Am I going to continue to do the European route, or am I going to say that was an amazing time, but it's time for something else to happen in my life. So
Yeah.
obviously, I would love to be in the CFL. Toronto and Hamilton are right in my backyard. I'm about 30 minutes from both. But as a Canadian quarterback, there's only one right now in the CFL. In Edmonton, he's playing good, doing his thing. Trey Ford, shout out to you. There's many of the Canadian quarterbacks that would love to be, trying to get in his shoes or at least get uh, picked up by a team. But hopefully, it could happen. Who knows? But I'm also not at that age where I'm getting older, so we'll see what happens. But
Mm. Well, I think from what I was when I was listening to you, you went back and forth a couple of times and how you see your future, right?
yeah,
So
I was like seeing it in
there
my
was a
eyes.
maybe in there, and
There,
it's
there,
time
there.
to it's time to do get a big boy job, and yeah, look, for young people, I always say if they're in school, stay in school as long as you can get it.
Hmm.
Get the highest degree that you can get. Stay in school as long as you can get. You That will benefit you. And then for football, it's like do it as long as it's fun for you, right?
Yeah, for
But then
sure.
you got to think about, all right, yeah, fun is one thing, and then you got to take care of, but your life after football too, right? So
Exactly.
it is one of these things. It's you got to make those decisions
For sure.
um, at some point, and if it's this year or it's next year, or at some point you got to
Hmm.
have it. But like you said,
Yeah,
you said you're getting older. Well, you also get wiser, right? So
very true.
that's I mean, these things you learn overseas, right?
Yep.
even just more leadership as a quarterback, or dealing with other cultures, or
Hmm.
there's a lot of things that you can say, look, that I've learned over my time. Have you ever gotten the chance to learn some German?
Unfortunately, like small little sayings to get by when I'm on the
Yeah.
tram,
Tschüss.
yeah, most of my time was just saying ich spreche kein Deutsch, and then just saying,
Yeah.
oh, ich spreche kein Deutsch, I don't know German, English,
Mm,
but counting to 10, little things like that,
yeah.
Dankeschön, bitteschön, whatnot. But like you said, you learn so much still from just adapting to a different culture, adapting to a different environment around you, just being in a different country, taking
Mm,
even just taking the leap of faith and getting on that plane and going thousands of miles away is tough. And when you're
sure.
fresh out of college and you do it when you're 22 years old, um, those are tough decisions, that not many people in life are even blessed to do, to get a free plane ticket, free round trip, and get to still play football in a different
Yeah.
country is amazing to say that you can do. Um,
Yeah.
and like you said, like you learn so much from it, and there truly is so much lessons. So many connections that you meet along the way too. Like
Mm,
even just us doing this podcast video right now. Who would have thought 2019 that we'd be doing this? Like I would have never thought,
sure.
oh yeah, 4 years later I'd be doing this with you. Like who knows? And
Yeah.
it's crazy how paths cross again, and it is such one thing I've really learned being overseas. It is such a small world, such a small world.
Yeah. And it's, it doesn't matter where this football is, right?
Hmm.
People in this country know people on the other side of the world. It's really amazing like that. Yeah. So there's
Yeah,
a lot of upside besides the fun and the playing, and more playing after college. But like I said, at some point, you gotta go, right? Get a
especially when
real
you have
9 to 5.
obligations. Yeah, when you have
Mm,
obligations and you have a girlfriend that you're serious with, like I'm not 22 and single anymore, and like with less obligations. I'm 28. I've been with my girlfriend for almost 5 years now.
mhm.
I'm on the verge of moving out. Parents are like, okay, let's go, get going, type thing. Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
so these are the things that you really have to think of because these are more priorities that are in your life now that I didn't
yeah,
have when I was 4 or 5 years ago. So
sure. Now, I guess we're not gonna get a definite yes or no at this time, right? So we don't have an exclusive to report here. I'm retiring, or I'm definitely looking for another team next year.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm retiring from overseas football. I'm
Okay.
leaning that way. That could be a
Mhm.
breaking news for your podcast, but um, I just don't see how it could feasibly be an option for me moving forward.
Yeah.
We know the cap of how much it usually caps out at, and yeah, but there might be, who knows, there might be still a chance to play on, internationally still with whether it's a nation's game, an IFF game, who knows? I carry Canadian passport and UK passport, so
Yeah.
who knows if there still might be at least a game or two that I could play. Or who knows if the CFL, you know, it reaches out. Toronto or Hamilton, like I said,
Right.
I'm right in your backyard. The cheapest
Yeah.
option is right here. Can drive to your guys'
It's
facility.
just,
So
yeah, like a walk in the training camp, right?
exactly. So we'll
Yeah.
see what happens.
Yeah. 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 So, all right, then let's move on past football. So what did you study in college?
Yeah, so I was a journalism new media major and I double minored in sports management and communications. I was also the editor in chief of my student paper at university.
Nice.
Um, so I like writing, mainly sports writing, of course, but I just want to kind of stay in the sports field somehow and be able to still fill that void of that passion for sports, especially football. When you've
Mm,
been playing this game for 20 plus years, it's like it would be a disservice to just quit it altogether and not
yeah.
utilize, my platform, my talents, whether it's coaching or sports reporting or, covering just athlete features or whatever it might be. So I definitely want to see if I can get through with that, whether it's starting at my own thing or maybe trying to get hired by a publication and, the Toronto area, whether TSN or the Score. Um, we'll see what
Yeah,
happens with that.
yeah. Yeah, look, yeah, or do well. It's middle in the season now. Also, yeah, for the CFL, I was thinking doing some kind of maybe some internship in the CFL in
Yeah,
Toronto.
yeah, even that.
Um, just to
Any
scoot through the door and
exactly. Yep. Anything to
mm,
get my foot in the door with that would be awesome, and it still at
yeah,
least allows me to still stay in that realm somehow, because it's so
mm,
hard. We talk about it, Jarvis and I, we talk about it all the time, and other athletes that are on the 28, 29-year old age group, and it's just like it's still sometimes so hard to just you know hang them up when like you said, when it's like sometimes it feels like it's all sometimes where you
sure,
know the past few years playing overseas and like not really focusing on like my what I studied in and what I got my degree in, and you kind of put all your marbles into one basket sometimes with football or any sport that you're really trying to pursue. Yes, you have a plan B, but you're obviously always focused on plan A and doing everything you can to get that you don't put as much time into a plan B almost as it might be. So but now, now that it's really more so around the corner, it's a different feeling. But I'm a true believer that if I put or if any athlete that puts all that time in workouts, lifting, meetings, film, if you put all that same work ethic that you do in with football into finding a career job, you'll land it for sure. And when you do land it, your employer will be very happy because they'll know, okay, we have somebody who's completely grounded and rooted in such a good work ethic.
yeah. That's an extremely good point, Christian, because that's exactly what sports brings to the table, right? In terms
Hmm.
of the regimented lifestyle of all the work that you have to do to get where you want to go, and if you bring that attitude towards a job, in the regular world, so to speak,
Hmm.
that's what employees like too, because they know you've done that hard work, and you stuck through it, and not
Yeah.
only then in college but also overseas, like
Hmm.
like we said before, have these different experiences that somebody's coming out of what is it, Toronto University, you
Hmm.
know is severely lacking, right? So
Yeah.
that's something, yeah.
Yep. Yep. Very true. Very true.
And so obviously Canada, we know professional ice hockey. That's what is that? That's a top one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10 sports in Canada,
Yeah.
right?
That's what you'll see on every news publication first is
Yeah,
hockey. That literally the Super Bowl can be playing and you'll still see a hockey commercial probably come right up. So
yeah. So then
yeah.
you get the CFL. What other professional athletes and sports is there in Canada?
Lacrosse is really big in Canada as well.
Lacrosse is all right.
Hockey and lacrosse, I think, are the two number one sports. Basketball is really coming up. There's a lot of really good Canadian NBA players.
Okay,
A lot of them that you'll see in the NBA on TV are could be Canadian.
okay.
Um, One off the back, Jamal Murray is a Canadian point guard. Shea Alexander, he's also top NBA player who's Canadian. There's a lot of also soccer guys that are Canadian, and yeah, I mean, there's a
Right.
lot of up and coming athletes that are Canadian that are already in the leagues, but obviously hockey is the biggest one for sure.
Yeah. How many NBA teams are in Canada? I
Only
know the
one,
Raptors. That's kind of
yeah,
about it.
Toronto
That's it?
Raptors, only
There's
one.
only
Yep,
one. Oh
only one
wow.
in the NBA is Toronto Raptors. Yeah,
Oh
and
wow.
we have a few MLS teams. So we have
Okay.
Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal has one. There might be three or four, maybe even more, but I can for sure name three of
Mm.
them that are in the MLS. But
Okay. So
yeah,
there are some sports that looking for sports writers that you
yeah,
potentially have could work for. Okay.
for
All
sure,
right.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So um have you ever thought of coaching football?
I've thought of it. My girlfriend's brought it up. Oh, like why don't you be a coach and this and that? But then I let her know like really quickly. But with a coach, we as players, you see what the coaches go through as well, and you feel for them because at any given point in time, you can easily have to pack your bags and go to a different city as well. I saw it in college, numerous times as well, where coaches come and go just like players do sometimes, and it's a
Mm.
tough job to get into where you're almost you can't play anymore. Like you're not the one on the field, so you're relying not on your skills as a coach to teach a player something, but to get them to translate that on the field is not 100% guaranteed. And it's just like to see, like, oh, my job sometimes in someone else's hands. It could be nerve wracking. It could be a situation I don't really want to get myself involved in. And I think with coaching as well, I'll end up losing more brain cells, pulling more hair as a coach.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really want to get into the coaching.
Okay.
Maybe if I have a kid and I have a son and he wants to play football, I can just coach him up. I wouldn't mind doing like personal training coaching for quarterbacks in the area.
Okay.
The thing though where I live, it's not a huge demographic, I think, for football. At least for quarterbacks, more so where I live in the GTA area, a lot of athletes go to the next level. A lot of, you know, receivers, DBs, running backs get picked up and go to the next level, whether it be university in the States or they make the CFL or whatnot. But
Mhm.
quarterbacks are pretty much fairly tough to find in this area. They're more so athletes, but who knows? Maybe that could be a good stepping stone for me to get involved and maybe show them more of the ropes to
Mm.
get them to certain avenues that they want to fulfill and partake
Mm.
in.
Well, because I think you actually be really good at it. That's
Mhm,
one. If I'm right, doesn't make you want to do it, but
mhm.
I could
It's good to get
see.
a recommendation though.
Yeah, no, I could see the temperament, and the football acumen, and just the way you
Hmm.
can communicate with players, or that would definitely be something that let's say I wouldn't say excuse me, I wouldn't say no to a potential coaching career if
Hmm.
something come up for you. So
I keep it in
mm,
mind for sure, but like everything nowadays, I mean, I hate to say
mm,
it, but contracts are crucial. Like I said, with where I'm at in my life, like contracts are also crucial
yeah.
to really make sure I get something that's feasible.
I'm sorry about this.
No,
I don't
you're
know what I
okay.
did. Um, so just rounding up this episode, Christian. Um, just thinking about you have your experiences. What are the what is the advice you can give to people who are new, made a Euro players account, want to be an import player? What are the things that you can advise them on?
To be very proactive, um, having connections is everything, and it really helps, really put yourself out there. Go past your profiles, obviously have an account with that, but even go on Facebook. A lot of these overseas teams use Facebook and use Facebook Messenger and whatnot. And that's something that was different for us, for me as an import, because we don't really use Facebook when you're in the States and can't whatever. But they use it for the most part a lot out there in Europe. So I would just
Mhm.
really try to do all your research that you can on these teams, find out these coaches, see if you can get through contact with them on Facebook. Um, Ask around different players or former players that they've had, because chances are those former players have their contact info, and just reach out to them. Be short and sweet when you reach out to coaches. They don't want to hear a long spiel about this and that and the third, and don't go all the way back 7 years ago from when you threw a touchdown pass in 2014. Keep it pretty relevant. Remember that time is of an essence, and they're going through probably another 50 different players' films and contact stuff, and also know that when you do get picked up as an import, it is an honor. They only can take four Americans. Four North Americans is all they're taking. And,
Mm.
to be one of the four picked up, don't take that for granted. Don't take it lightly. And don't, I mean, try not to be that import that just goes there just for a paid vacation. If that's your provocative, that's fine. Then go ahead and do that. But you can get a lot out of it if you really still, stay true to football and stay true to who you are when you're out there and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, good stuff. And um, so I've been in a position where as a head coach, you get all these messages on Facebook too. And one of the things, like you said, short and sweet. That's a good one. But also, um, what I have a hard time with is like sometimes you get a message like how great they are.
Hmm.
And I think you want to just look, be to the point. Like you have to look at my film, coach. Just look at my film. I'm the right guy for you. That kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And like I said, because on Euro players, there's so many messages that
For sure.
organizations get. Not everybody's going to look at every message.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
because that's one of these. Every I don't know if you noticed this, but a lot of these teams have these underneath that says, "Look, guys, is that we'll contact you. Don't worry.
Exactly.
If
Yeah.
we just
Yep.
can't respond to all these
Yeah. The
messages from
generic
everybody."
message. Yep. Yep.
Mm.
That you have that generic message that gets sent in a different language, and you end up having to copy and paste it on a Google Translate to see what it says. But yeah, like you said, and then also explain to them what you can do best for their team. Don't just say like, "Oh, I can do this and I can do that." Okay, but what can you do for the team? How will you
Mm.
utilize your skill set to put the team in the best situation possible to win games and to have a successful season? They want to hear those things as well. So,
So, all right. So somebody made a Europlayer account. They got a message from a team, and now there's going to be an interview, right?
mhm.
So, what are teams asking? How do you feel? Can you best answer those questions so you get the outcome you want?
First and foremost, when you have that interview, know how to pronounce the head coach's name properly. Because
Ooh.
chances are they may not be an American coach out there, or they might have an American head coach. If you have an American head coach, it's probably easier to pronounce their name because you're aware of it, you know of it. But they have a German last name or whatever that home nation's last name is, pronounce it properly. That's probably a good start to the interview. And then
Mm.
second off of that, like you said, I mean, I would also, do your research and because chances are they also did their research on you, and if they did, they can pull up your game stats, they can pull up this and that. So be aware of the difficult questions that they might ask. For me, for instance, when I came out of college, I threw a lot of interceptions. I had that in my that was the numbers didn't lie. Like they were just always they were stuck. Like that's what it was a lot of yards, a lot of completions, yes, touchdowns, but he also had a lot of interceptions. So be ready to answer, why that might have been, and to to have a solution for something that might be seen as a problem to a coach. Be ready to be on your toes a bit. Not all of the interviews are very easy, very straightforward. Because, like I said, even when I was in the mix with the Raiders this year, I was the first ever Canadian quarterback to get picked up in the EL. I was the first ever Canadian player to get picked up, true Canadian in the ELF. Um, so I was going up against, and the ELF it's a bit different. You're going up against USA and Mexico because all Canada, USA, and Mexico are all in North America. That's all one
Yeah.
import. Rather than in
Mm.
the GFL, I was a dual passport because I have the UK passport, so I was considered a non-American, which was makes it easier to get picked up because obviously there's not so a handful of dual passport quarterbacks in that could play, that or that had played in the states as well, that had the credentials to back up as well their name, and then you can get an extra American at receiver or running back like we did in Cologne, which was also helped to our success.
Sure.
So really, you know, try to find a way to separate yourself from your competitors because like I said they're going to have other players that they're also interviewing with, and when it seems so good say, oh, I'm about to get picked up, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're having that same exact talk with another guy and they're saying, hey, you're our guy, we're going to take you, and then next your text message is, oh, we're moving on from you. It's like, oh wait, I thought I was a guy. It's like be ready for any of those situations. And that's why I tell guys that are imports as well, the same way these teams have other options, don't just put all your marbles in on one team.
Mm.
Really have a few teams that you're talking to and even let it be known. I'm a guy. keeping it completely real and being fully transparent. Honesty is the only way. And that goes a long way for me. And I think any import should be completely honest and straightforward from the jump, as you would expect the team to be, but not necessarily all the teams will be. But at least you know as a man, you could at least kept it 100 with them. And if you are talking to other teams, let it be known like, hey, I'm also talking to this team, I'm talking to that team. Maybe don't say the names if you don't want to, but let it be known that, hey, I'm also talking to teams that can either fasten the process to get you picked up, maybe can get you something else you wanted in your contract or whatnot. But it could also separate you from others as well. So don't
Yeah.
be afraid to definitely, use leverage as well as an import. Because it's
Mm.
not, you don't have much when you're also an import going 1,000 miles overseas, away from a lot of things. The team has a lot of leverage, but I would still be as an import and still see what you can do and what you can get.
Mm. So your first country overseas was at Australia, right? So
Yeah.
how did you feel that was different to Canada to live here? You were working and playing, it was different. How was
Mhm.
that? How was that dealing with a different culture?
Let's just say I wouldn't be able to do Australia at 28 years old. I would only been able to have done that season when I was just fresh out of college. I look back at it and I'm amazed at the fact that I was able to work literally a 40-hour job as a server slash bartender, play football, go to the gym. You have to literally, in an experience like that, you have to be very self-motivated
Yeah.
because you don't have to have team lift. You don't have team lifts. You don't have team meetings. You have to go and do that all yourself. You have to stay in shape yourself. You have to get money yourself, or else you're not living. You're not paying rent. You're not surviving. You're not paying for groceries. You're not paying for a phone
Yeah.
card. You have to do those things. So, like, looking back at that experience, it made me really want to land GFL and ELF eventually, and an overseas league in Europe that paid because, okay, I want to get paid to do this now. I did it this year, and we were winning good games, and we're playing great, and it was amazing, and it was a testimony to us as men that we could do that. But it's okay. I want to get paid doing this because I went through that hardship that year. And it was a tough year, very tough year. And Australia is not an easy 6-hour flight to get back home, or to
Mm.
go on a trip back home, whatever. That you're
Yeah.
when you're in Australia, you're there in Australia. That is
Yeah.
one place I could tell, and I could say if you played as an import in Australia, you're a different type of import because
Mm.
you're far away from home. You are
Yeah.
very far,
Yeah.
and it's a big time difference too.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is it to Canada right now? 14-hour time difference, huh?
Yep, yep,
Mm. Yeah.
yep.
No, and I feel like there's more guys, imports come and play in Australia to go back to Europe and then do the same as you did. Like,
Yeah.
I'm coaching a local team here now, the Croydon Rangers. So fellas,
Hmm.
and a guy we had last year went after our season went to Poland to play,
Yeah.
right? So that is one of these things that I tell import players too, is that if you invest a year here, what's going to happen is that now somebody in Europe says, "All right, this guy gone the long route, the hard way to go about it.
Hmm. Hmm.
He has proven that he can play on an amateur level, different from playing college football because everything is different, right?
Yeah.
That goes for Europe as well, but Europe on the highest level is not that far from college football, and
Yeah.
where Australian football is like, yeah, that's a long way away from college. So
Hmm.
there are things that you can, that you put basically in your resume as a player. You go, all right, I invested time here. I had a great time playing, but I also gained some valuable insight in what it is to play overseas.
Yep.
I actually pay my own way because nobody really here pays any players, right? So,
Hmm.
and that's valuable to get your next job. Like that's one of
Exactly.
these things. You're not playing for your current contract. You're playing for
Mm.
your next contract. So,
Exactly. 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 I agree with that completely.
yeah.
And honestly, it molds you into the man that like it molded me into the man that I am today, to be honest with you. And like
Mm,
even after that season, I look back at it now and just thinking about it, it's like maybe having Jarvis and I over there in that season, and then getting to go to the European leagues after that. Like five other guys were able to also get offers like the year after, so kind of also helped, you know, put Brisbane Rhinos as well on the map. And Coach Berg did an amazing job as well at getting guys to colleges. He did an awesome job helping getting guys to go D1 and whatnot. And it was a good situation where a lot of guys, you know, maybe saw inspiration from it, and also went to try to say, hey, if they can do it, I can also do it too. And there's guys like there's two O linemen that were my starting O line in Brisbane that were playing for Potsdam, top team in the GFL.
Yeah.
Another receiver had played GFL two for Rostock for a year, and I'm sure another one in Sweden and whatnot. So I mean, it's just awesome to see that there's talent all over. And that's another thing from playing 5 years overseas. A lot, a lot of them, a lot of Americans might not know this, or Canadians may not know this that play Canadian University or American University is not aware of it, but there are ballers all over the world. There are
Yeah.
players that I remember playing against in Australia that where I tell myself, dang, if he had the coaching at a Division 1 school or D2 school, this guy would be in the league. He'd be playing on Sundays because he's just a physical specimen and he's aggressive, can hit. His reading reaction skills are crazy. He just needs the proper coaching. And we say that everywhere in Europe as well, in Germany as well, in Austria, and wherever it might be. You see it all the time where there's another guy coming up left and right out of these international programs, but there's even more hidden gems that are out there, way
Yeah.
more hidden gems. I think all leagues should have a global roster, or at least up that global roster a bit. 'Cause there's a lot of talent out there, lots.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, back in the day when I was working in the NFL Europe, we that was part of our job, right? Finding European talent that could make it as a pro in the NFL Europe, and lots of
Yep.
things have happened, over the years for that, and more guys playing college football. You see guys in the NFL. We have
Mhm.
Australia has a couple of guys in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yep.
if you go on the domestic level of football, it's just not very good, right? But
Mhm.
the like you said, there are some specimens walking the planet, and
Mhm.
especially here in Australia, it's unbelievable. So
Yep. So
yeah,
true. So true.
yeah, absolutely. All right, Christian, I think we sort of near the end here. Is
Yeah.
there anything that sort of that we haven't talked about that you thought, all right, maybe we should mention this in regards to international football and that kind of stuff?
I think we touched base on a lot
We're
of
good.
topics. Yeah, I think we're good.
Hmm. All right. Now, um, I am fine with whatever decision you make, Christian,
Mhm.
for your future. But I
Yep.
wouldn't mind seeing you one more year playing in Europe somewhere, and finishing the season really well and finish on a
Mm.
high. That's something that's probably good too. But
Mhm.
if you're working for the I don't know, Toronto Examiner, is that a paper, or
It's called the Toronto Star over here.
this is the Toronto Star? Right, that sounds good too. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to stay in touch, man, and have a good future, whatever that takes.
I appreciate that very much, Coach JL, and all the best to you, and continue to do this whole platform. And who knows, we might cross paths again. Maybe I might have a video podcast down the road, and we cross paths again, and we merge. Who knows? And we just have a little
Yeah,
collaboration there. But we'll see what
yeah,
happens in the future,
absolutely. Yeah, it was a pleasure, and we'll stay in touch, man.
for sure. Have a good
See
one.
you, bud.
Take care.
See you. Bye bye.
Bye.